Hello, MUS 2020 students. This is just a quick video to go over my expectations for the Composition 3 project, creating a piece in notation in MuseScore, exporting it to Ableton, and then playing around with the built-in instruments in Ableton to create a virtual ensemble, doubling things, playing around with the MIDI to create different harmony parts, etc. As you can see, I've got my MuseScore file here already. This is a little bit smaller than what yours would be. Yours has to be a grand total of 2 minutes minimum. Mine is only about 8 bars long, so I can check how long it is by going to the last bar, turning on the metronome, and then I'm going to stop it as soon as it hits the downbeat of bar 9. And that tells me that we're about 16 seconds long, give or take a little rounding error. So definitely on the short side. Yours, again, will have to be at least 2 minutes. But this will give you enough to see what I'm going to do. So I'm going to select all of this blank space, starting here in bar 9 in the flute, and going to bar 32 in the cello. And then I can delete that with Control-Delete on a PC or Command-Delete on a Mac. And I want to get rid of all that extra junk space just because that would mess up any loop points in Ableton. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want to have to crop it down later. Next, I'm going to go to File, Export, change my format from PDF to MIDI file. If I have any repeats, I want expand repeats to be checked, and then I'm going to hit export, and we'll save it on the desktop. Next, I'm in Ableton. First things first, I'm going to delete these 2 audio tracks because I don't need them, and then I'm going to create some additional MIDI tracks. This is Command-Shift-T on a Mac or Control-Shift-T on a PC. I'm just going to give myself 6 MIDI tracks. That will be a good start. I'm going to grab my MIDI file, drag it into Ableton, tab over to the arrangement view, and just drop it down here. It's going to ask if I want to import tempo and time signature. The answer is yes. Yes, I do. Although I did create this at 44120, which is the default of both MuseScore and Ableton. So in my case, it doesn't really matter. But if you're doing things where you have lots of time signature changes, you will want to do that because then Ableton will carry those over and import them from MuseScore. Then I'm going to rename my clips. So my first clip, the flute, was my melody. I'm going to hit Control-R on a PC, Command-R on Mac to rename that melody. Violin is going to be renamed harmony. And then the cello, I'm going to rename bass. Okay. If I hit play, no sound. The reason for that is that while I have in fact imported all of the MIDI data, MIDI is just telling it what notes to play. It's not a sound itself. So if I look at track 1, track 2, and track 3, down here it just says drop an instrument or sample here. There's no actual instruments that are associated with it yet. So, gotta fix that. So I'm going to find a bass sound. And I'll drop that onto the bass track. Then I need something for the melody and for the harmony. I'm thinking something guitar and plucked. Ooh, actually, I really like that. We'll use that for the melody. And then for my harmony part, I'm going to find something else. Let's try maybe wind. Maybe something from the brass category. like that. There we go. Okay, so I've now got the 3 parts in the timeline. I've got instruments on them. Let's hear what it sounds like. Okay, it sounds pretty good, but I'm a little high on the volume. I can see I'm clipping already, so I'm going to pause that for a second, and I am going to add a limiter on the master channel, and that will definitely help. It appears it's probably my bass, so I'm going to take my bass down a little bit too, and let's restart that. Okay, that's a good start, so I'm going to save the project. We're going to save that as MUS 2020 Comp 3 Demo. Now comes the fun part. I want to lay this out kind of like an actual orchestra would have it. So I'm going to take my lead and place that very, very far on the left. I'm going to take my harmony and place that very far on the right. My bass is going to get a little bit of reverb. And again, I'm going to take the volume down just a smidge. I'll add a touch of reverb to the other parts and maybe just a little bit of delay to the harmony and the bass. And we'll hear how that sounds. Okay, I am digging that. But it does say that you need to create an arrangement and that you will probably want to double the parts. So let's look at how we can double some things. I'm going to select all the clips and duplicate them twice. Then I'm going to come down and drag them into these other lanes. So I need to find new instruments that will fit on these. So let's find some samples for this and get away from synths, so we've got a little bit of a contrast. Let's start with the bass. Double bass pits on that. For the melody, I think we're going to stick with the strings idea, and let's do a violin solo with staccato. And for the harmony, not feeling strings there. Let's try winds there, and I'm thinking oboe. Just because the oboe doesn't really get enough love on its own. There we go. So let's hear this section, but first let's think about how we want to pan those. Again, I'm going to probably move them, but not necessarily as extreme as I did with the other parts. And I'm going to want to play around with the volume as well and hear what they sound like. Cool. Then it comes in with the other part, and in fact I can duplicate everything here, and then I'd hear one gigantic ensemble playing here starting at bar 7. But what might be interesting would be to reverse the order of where everything is for the melody and harmony parts, so that I've got melody on both sides at different proportions, harmony on both sides in different proportions. Let's go back to 17. Here, I'm going to add similar effects. I'm going to use a lot more of the doubling effect. Okay, so that's kind of cool. But there's more that I can do. I can edit the clips. So I'm going to select a clip here, and what we're going to do is I'm going to drop down into the clip editor, which I'll bring it up to make it larger. I'm going to select all the notes in there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them all up by a set amount so that everything is harmonized with the part that's in the violin. So I want to move this up by a major third. So I'm going to go up by pressing the arrow key up on my keyboard 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Harmony part. I'm going to select, not all of that. I'm going to select all of the harmony part, and I'm going to take the harmony part down by a perfect fifth, which is 7 semitones. So select all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then the bass part is going to go down by exactly 1 octave, so 12 semitones. So select all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And now we've got different harmony parts, so I'm going to select all of those. I'm going to change the color to something different, just so I can see visually where everything's at. So let's listen to that. So here is what we're going to have. We're going to have the original part, we're going to have the orchestral part, and then we're going to have both parts together, but with harmony. That sounds so cool. So one last thing I'll show you. I'm going to duplicate all these parts again. You don't have to have all of these parts playing at once. So for example, I may split the harmony part here and split the melody part here, and we're going to split the harmony part here as well. That way I've only got those playing when they're playing the faster passages, and they're doubling that fast part. Another thing that I can do that's very cool is if I select a part, like say the bass part, I can hit reverse, and that will play it in reverse order. So here's what I've got now. So there's a lot of stuff you can do playing around with that. You can also duplicate a clip, and you can reverse it, and then you can invert it. I'll do that with the bass so you can see that really quick. If I invert it, it takes the intervals, and if they went up, they go down. And it just inverts them along whatever the central pitch axis would be. In this case, it might work, but it's generally a little dangerous, so I'm going to delete that. But looking at the project, you're going to want to make sure that you have the full piece. You're going to want to double some things. You want stuff to be playing throughout, so you're not soloing everything except for the bass. And it does need to be at least 2 minutes long. And of course, the last thing you will need to do is to throw some effects on and automate things. You can get some really cool effects by automating the panning in particular and moving out, say, the bass from the center to the extreme right and left if you've got two copies of the bass part. Or you can do similar things, taking the melody from the extreme right and left and moving it into the center so that the two melody parts are on top of each other. But those are just some ideas. There's a lot more you can play with, especially with effects, to alter the timbre. Things like sweeping filters and using all sorts of things like grain delay, or getting into chorus and flanger to get kind of a psychedelic feel to everything. So have fun, and let me know if you have any questions about this project.